Hey, my name's Bill McIntosh, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the book that I've just finished writing about sight reading. The sight reading is one of these areas that most people think either it can't be taught or they just throw a bunch of music out and say, read all this music and you'll get better at sight reading. Well, I'm here to tell you that sight reading is something that is somewhat simple to teach, although it's not easy, and it does take a certain amount of discipline. But in preparing to write this book, I identified three real problem areas that I address in the book. I think the first problem that most students have is that they don't have the ability to keep a steady beat on their own. Normally they just play along with all the musicians around them in a band class, but they don't have the disciplined ability to count the 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over. I think the second problem area is that most students and most musicians don't have a thorough enough understanding of what I call the mechanics of music reading, and that is some of the basics like time signatures and key signatures, accidentals, ties, slurs, repeats, DS, DC, all of these types of things. In the method books, they kind of skim over them, and you're in class, and I understand it's kind of hard to really give a thorough understanding of these things. But in the book, I break down all of the mechanics into single, sequential, stepwise lessons that introduce and thoroughly teach each of the different mechanics of music reading. Now, I think the third problem area is that most musicians and most students don't have the ability to break down a rhythm. That is, they don't completely understand a counting system, so that when they find a rhythm that they can't play, they don't have the ability to break it down in a one-eanda type of form. So in this book, I have 23 lessons that are simple and stepwise, and each lesson contains three parts. That is a teaching part of the lesson where I try to develop a thorough understanding of the individual skill. Part 2 is a written assessment where the student is able to put pencil to paper and try to work their way through this new skill without having their horn in their hand. And then the third area, of course, is a performance exercise or a melodic exercise. This way, students just don't go home and just play their horns or whatever. It's a chance for them to go home and practice in a stepwise and a sequential manner so that they build the skills and they build the mindset and they develop the ability and the confidence to become competent sight readers. Of course, I don't have to tell you how important it is to be a good sight reader. Just think how much, band directors, I want you to think how much better your class would be if you got to spend more time teaching the actual music and the interpretive nature of the music instead of sitting there having to bang out rhythms on your music stands. And I want you students to think about how much more enjoyable class would be, and I want you to think about that feeling when you try out for all district or all city or all state band and they put that sight reading up front of you and it becomes fright reading. You just freeze like a deer in the headlights. Well, working your way through this book will give you the ability and the confidence to become a very good sight reader, and you can spend lots more time on actually playing music rather than working it out. If you'd like a copy of the book, of course you can order it directly from my website, JediSightReading.com, and I hope you really enjoy the book.